The case of Daniel Robinson, a 24-year-old geologist from Buckeye, Arizona, has captivated both his family and the public. His disappearance in June 2021 continues to baffle investigators, as well as his loved ones, who are desperate for answers. Daniel was on a routine fieldwork assignment in the desert near Phoenix when he reached out to his father, David Robinson, about car trouble. But this seemingly routine call would be the last anyone would hear from him. Days later, his vehicle was found abandoned in the desert, his personal belongings still inside, and his phone lying on the ground. Despite multiple searches and theories ranging from foul play to a mental health crisis, no trace of Daniel has been found. His family's relentless pursuit of answers, as well as the investigation's slow progress, continues to highlight the chilling mystery behind Daniel's disappearance. This case is a reminder of how a simple day can change lives forever, and how a family's hope can persist even in the face of unspeakable uncertainty. Chapter 1. A routine day turned tragic. Daniel Robinson was an adventurous young man, excited about his career as a geologist. He had recently moved to Buckeye, Arizona to pursue his work in the desert, where he studied geological formations and worked for a company conducting environmental studies. On June 23, 2021, he was tasked with a fieldwork assignment in the remote desert region near Phoenix. The day seemed like any other, but things took a sudden and unexpected turn when Daniel called his father, David. He explained that his car had gotten stuck in a ditch. Daniel assured his father that he was all right and would walk to a nearby town to get help. The conversation was calm, and David, who lived several hours away, didn't initially express concern. After all, it seemed like a minor issue. But as time passed and Daniel failed to contact him again, David became worried. Hours later, after trying to reach his son, David knew something was wrong. Daniel's car was stuck, but why hadn't he been able to get help? Where was he? Daniel, so full of life and optimism, had suddenly disappeared. Chapter 2. The abandoned vehicle. The discovery of Daniel's vehicle days after his disappearance was one of the most disturbing pieces of evidence in the case. The vehicle was located in a desolate part of the desert, about 11 miles from his last known location. His Jeep Renegade was abandoned, locked, with the keys still inside. Daniel's personal items, including his wallet, keys, and a few other belongings, were found inside the vehicle, but there was no sign of Daniel. What was most chilling, however, was the condition of his phone. It had been found lying on the ground, separated from his vehicle. There was no indication of a struggle or any immediate signs of violence, which led investigators to believe that Daniel had not been abducted, at least not near the vehicle. The desert's vast, empty expanse only deepened the mystery. What could have happened to Daniel after he left his car? Why didn't he call for help or use his phone to navigate? Was it an accident, or had he wandered off under distress? The abandoned vehicle offered no clear answers, and Daniel's disappearance grew even more puzzling. Chapter 3. The search begins. After Daniel's family and friends realized that he had gone missing, the search began in earnest. His parents, especially his father, David, were determined to find any trace of their son. They knew the desert environment posed serious challenges. Searing heat during the day, freezing cold at night, and rough terrain that made navigation difficult. Volunteers and search teams combed the desert on foot, in vehicles, and by air. Despite their best efforts, the search yielded few clues. Helicopters and drones were employed in an attempt to cover more ground, but the sheer size of the desert made it nearly impossible to be certain that every inch had been covered. The family also brought in private investigators to help with the search, hoping that new eyes on the case could offer a fresh perspective. But after weeks of searching, it became clear that finding Daniel was not going to be easy. With no signs of his whereabouts and no new leads, the search began to feel like an exercise in frustration. Chapter 4. Theories and speculations. As days turned into weeks, the theories about what happened to Daniel began to multiply. Some believed that Daniel had gotten lost in the desert, possibly trying to walk for help. The harsh terrain and sweltering heat would have made it difficult for anyone to survive, especially without enough water or food. Could he have wandered off, disoriented and confused, succumbing to the elements? Others speculated that Daniel may have been a victim of foul play. While there were no signs of a struggle at the scene, the fact that Daniel's phone was left behind and his belongings were untouched raised questions. Could someone have taken him? What about the possibility of an accident, or even something more sinister, like a robbery gone wrong or an altercation with a stranger? Another theory centered around Daniel's mental health. Some speculated that he may have experienced a psychological breakdown while in the desert. There was no prior indication that Daniel had struggled with mental health issues, but some believed that the stresses of his job, being away from family, and the isolation of the desert could have affected him in ways that weren't immediately apparent. It was a theory that didn't provide many concrete answers, but seemed to fit the circumstances. With each new theory, the case became more complicated. But there was one thing that everyone agreed on. Daniel Robinson's disappearance was no accident. Something had happened to him, and the search for answers was just beginning. Chapter 5. The role of Daniel's phone. The role of Daniel's phone in the investigation has been a focal point since it was discovered at the scene. His phone, found outside of the vehicle, contained some critical data. While it was locked, experts were able to trace the final activity on the phone and reviewed the incoming and outgoing calls. There were no messages or calls made in the hours after Daniel had spoken to his father, which raised more questions. Had Daniel been trying to call for help, or was he trying to escape from someone or something? Why would he leave his phone behind in such a critical moment? Forensic analysis suggested that the phone had not been tampered with, and there were no signs of forced entry or hacking. The unanswered questions surrounding the phone added another layer to the already perplexing case. One thing was clear: the phone, while providing clues, only raised more mysteries. Investigators found it difficult to build a solid timeline around the last known activity on the phone, as it didn't provide clear evidence of where Daniel had gone or who he had been in contact with. Chapter 6. A Father's Search for Answers. David Robinson, Daniel's father, has become the public face of the search for his son. His frustration and anguish have been palpable throughout the case, and his relentless pursuit of answers has made him a symbol of hope for other families of the missing. Despite the lack of progress in the investigation, David continues to speak out, challenging the authorities to devote more resources to finding his son. David has stated that he believes law enforcement has not given the case the attention it deserves. This frustration led him to organize private searches and engage with media outlets to keep the case in the public eye. David's emotional pleas have resonated with many people who have followed the case and raised awareness about Daniel's disappearance. As a father, David's determination has been unwavering. He refuses to give up on finding Daniel, even when it feels like the investigation has stalled. Chapter 7. The Family's Determination. Daniel's family has stood united in their determination to find him. While David has been the most vocal advocate, his mother, brother, and other family members have supported him every step of the way. The pain of not knowing what happened to Daniel has been overwhelming, but they refuse to let their son's case fade from the headlines. The family has worked tirelessly to spread awareness about Daniel's disappearance, creating social media campaigns, publicizing the case through news outlets, and even setting up a reward for information. They have also reached out to various organizations that specialize in missing persons cases, hoping that they can offer new insights or methods that could help in the search. The Robinson family's commitment to finding Daniel has become a driving force in keeping his case in the public eye. Chapter 8. Investigating the Desert Landscape. The Arizona desert has played a central role in the search for Daniel. the dry, arid landscape is unforgiving, and understanding its geography has become key to piecing together Daniel's movements. Experts have studied satellite images and desert terrain maps in an attempt to determine where Daniel might have gone after leaving his vehicle. Investigators believe that Daniel may have wandered off in an attempt to find help, but the lack of physical evidence has made this theory difficult to prove. The desert's vastness means that even slight movements could take someone miles from where they were last seen. Moreover, the extreme conditions of the desert, heat during the day and cold at night, make survival nearly impossible without proper supplies. Understanding the desert's challenges is essential for making sense of Daniel's fate. Chapter 9. The mental health angle. One theory that has gained attention is the possibility that Daniel experienced a mental health crisis. Some believe that the isolation of the desert, combined with the pressures of his job, could have affected his mental state. It's suggested that Daniel might have suffered from stress, anxiety, or even a breakdown that led him to make irrational decisions. Mental health professionals have pointed out that stress and exhaustion can sometimes manifest in ways that are hard to detect, and the isolation of the desert may have worsened any psychological issues. There's still no clear indication that Daniel had mental health struggles before his disappearance, but the theory that he may have been experiencing a crisis has gained traction among those who believe he may have acted irrationally or made dangerous decisions. Chapter 10. The strain of waiting. As the months went by without any new developments, the emotional toll on Daniel's family grew heavier. The constant waiting, hoping for answers, but receiving no closure, became an unbearable burden. David Robinson in particular continued to fight for answers, holding on to the hope that one day his son would be found. The strain of waiting was not just an emotional toll, it also took a physical toll on the family. The stress of endless interviews, legal proceedings, and search efforts left them exhausted, yet they never stopped fighting for Daniel. Through all the heartache, the family's love for Daniel remained unbroken. The case of Daniel Robinson remains one of Arizona's most perplexing and heartbreaking disappearances. As time passes, new theories have emerged, but no definitive answers have been found. Daniel's family, led by his determined father, continues to fight for closure, refusing to let their son's name fade into obscurity. Despite the frustrations, setbacks, and the emotional toll, they continue their search for answers, hoping that one day the truth will come to light. Daniel's disappearance serves as a painful reminder of how quickly someone can disappear, leaving behind a trail of unanswered questions and a family desperate for closure. While the case remains unsolved, Daniel's legacy lives on in the hearts of those who love him, and in the tireless efforts of his family to find him. His story is far from over, and the pursuit of answers is far from finished. Daniel Robinson's disappearance may be shrouded in mystery, but as long as his family is searching, his story will not be forgotten. Thank you for watching. If you found this story fascinating and want to learn more about other true crime cases, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, stay vigilant and keep questioning the narratives that shape our world.